Today is Thursday. It is the 25th of Iyar Tafshin Pei Beis. We are in Teres Menachem Sefer HaMamorim Tafshin Yudalid, in the first Mamar of the Sefer, and we are on page Vav in middle of chapter 3. And we are 7 lines from the beginning of chapter 3. The line starts Sheho'er. We are at the full stop. The Al Derech. Right? Sheho'er. The line starts Sheho'er. We're going into a discussion of a very deep concept. Okay? We can really get lost in this. I'm going to try to do it as concisely as possible, so that we can get through the idea and come to the conclusion of what the Rebbe is trying to address over here.
It says Hay on page Hay.
That's on page Vav. Chapter 3, Gimel, Ois Gimel.
Yeah. Okay.
And the line starts Sheho'er, 7 lines from the beginning of the chapter 3 of Ois Gimel, at the full stop. The Rebbe basically is explaining that on Rosh Hashanah Eve, everything retracts to its original source as it was before creation. And what we need to accomplish through the Avodah. Let me see what page you're on, Stephen?
Vav.
Vav.
Yeah. Just here.
That's the one. That's the one where your hand is on.
I think when you
That's it.
stapled them together, you had a few l'chaim.
No, my printer had a few l'chaims. You know, it seems to have a mind of its own. I give it instructions and then it does what it wants. So I think it depends which computer I printed from. But really, if all you have to do is flip it this way, and then it works. Anyway, to make a kula.
Yeah.
That's
it.
it.
In your head.
So the Rebbe is explaining that on Rosh Hashanah Eve, everything retracts to the way it was before creation, and that retraction expresses itself in the sphere of Malchus. Malchus being the last of the 10 spheres. Malchus being the sphere of the divine supernal attribute that through which Hashem creates. Malchus also being that which happens at Rosh Hashanah, Tam lechunei aleichem, make me a king over you. It's a euphemism for saying, cause me to recreate the world. Cause me to reconnect with the world, right? Why? Because on the eve of Rosh Hashanah, everything retracts to its original source. And we, through our service on Rosh Hashanah, particularly culminating in shofar, the blowing of the shofar, brings all that back. Says the Rebbe in chapter 3 that what retracts is not only Malchus, which is the end of the sphere, but everything that's behind Malchus. Everything that brings Malchus into being. The entire operating system, if you will. All the elements behind Malchus that causes Malchus to become present also retracts. So the fullness of it retracts. Not only Malchus itself, but also what in the simple sense. Let's use a simple metaphor. How does one become a king? People come to the king and say, we want you to be our king. What does that do? It says, okay, I'm becoming king. That awakens a desire to become a king. That's how it works. Okay, you want me to be a king, so do I want to be king? Yes, I'd like to be king. Will I have pleasure of being king? I'll have great pleasure of being king. So I'm going to become king. Right? That's the dynamic, in the simple sense. That's known as rotzen and tainug. Desire and pleasure. In spheres, in terms of supernal divine attributes, we're talking about the rotzen and tainug, that's keser, the inner dimension of Malchus. Right? So in other words, the bottom line is everything that brings Malchus into being retracts to its original source. So the Malchus is removed, the desire is removed, the pleasure is removed, it goes back to its original state. Like as if nothing ever happened. And we have to start now recreating or reawakening that whole process anew. When? From the night of Rosh Hashanah, through our service of Hashem on Rosh Hashanah, culminating in the blowing of the shofar. So the Rebbe says that in more detail, not only does Malchus retract, but also the desire and the pleasure of Malchus also retracts to its source, to its root, to its source, and the root of its root. Or its source and its root, and the source of its source. that not just plays on words for purposes of emphasis. It means it goes from one level to another level to another level upwards in ascending until until it retracts back into Hashem's very essence. And it's not in a manner of just being concealed, as we spoke yesterday. You could be present but hiding, and those that are around don't see you, so that's also concealment. No, but because you're still present. This is genuine retraction. This is genuine removal. It's not present. It goes back to its source. It's not just hidden from us. It goes back to its source, and we have to draw it down anew. So that's what the Rebbe says. We'll go, we'll start from the line above it. Shemistalekes at a full stop. V'siluk zeh, this removal, Einei rak helam is not just like a concealment. Hainu she'einei b'hizgalus avodim tzuhu behelam, merely that he's not revealed, but he is present in a concealed manner, as just explained. Ela sheha'oir hu ki'ilu einei. The light, the energy of Malchus and Rotzen and Tainug and so on and so forth is as if it's non-existent, as if he's not present. Similar to that which is explained in other places in Chassidus concerning the first contraction, as I explained in the previous shiur about what happened when Hashem decided to create the world and his entire infinite light was filling the entire hollow, so to speak, and then he pushed some of that aside, and he left metaphoric, no metaphors obviously, left a hollow l'makam ponui. He left a hollow and a void, right? And that gave rise to the possibility of existence, separate existence, apparent separate existence from godliness. So in what form was the first contraction? What does it mean he moved his divine light to the side? A similar idea to what the Rebbe is explaining here, what happens on Rosh Hashanah. That's what happened at the Tzimtzum Rishon. What happened at the first contraction? He retracted his divine light back into his essence. Shehu inyan heder ha'oir, es vert uis metzias oir. What happens is, there's Hashem's essence, and then there is the emanation of Hashem in terms of the Hashem's infinite divine light. That's a secondary aspect, right? There's Hashem, just like the person. There's the person himself, and then there's how the person projects himself. So there's Hashem, and Hashem, when we talk about Oir Ein Sof, Hashem's infinite light, before the Tzimtzum, this is a manner of Hashem projecting himself, to use some more simplistic terminology. And that filled the whole hollow. When we say that he removed his divine light to the sides, it means he retracted. He stopped projecting. He retracted that projection. And that left a hollow and a void. So what happens? There's no more oir. It's like the oir is gone. Where is it? It's back in its source. Similarly, so what's left over, when that process takes place, what remains? And all that's left now, in other words, the way the divine infinite light of Hashem is present within his very essence. Obviously, the very essence of Hashem is so overbearingly powerful that the way he projects himself, or the projection aspect of him, the Oir Ein Sof, it's meaningless. It's indiscernible. It's like the ray of the sun inside the sun before the ray comes out. Is it there? It must be there, because we know that later on we see it on Earth. But if we were able to go into the sun before it projects its ray, it's meaningless. But is it there? Yes, it is there. How? It's the power of light, or the potential to project, as it is included and subsumed within the luminary. So it's more like a potential, but it's in practical terms, it's all but gone. It doesn't project. If it doesn't project, it's all but gone. Doesn't mean it doesn't project because it can't project. No, it could project. That's the point. So something does remain. It's the koyach ha'ir, the potential to project. But in actual fact, it doesn't, because it's all retracted where? Back into the very essence of Hashem. So that's what happened at the first contraction. V'yaseidim is even more than that. Shaleizu b'vat she'enei rak she'enei b'b'chinas metzias oir ki'im koyach ha'ir k'mei shekol b'moir. Not only is it in a manner that it's not the existence of light, it's only the potential for projection. As it is included within the luminary, it's even more than that. It's even more than that. This is emphasis more than anything, but it's an important emphasis. It's not that the light retracts into the luminary and the light and that projection aspect is present in potential. No. If you go back to, think for a moment how it was before Hashem projected, to use metaphorical terms, before he projected his infinite light from his very essence. In what way was the infinite light present within him? It was present there, or what manner, what manner of presence does it have within the luminary? The luminary, Hashem is an infinite luminary, an infinite power that can do everything, right? Including projecting himself. So it's not, so in other words, when we talk about it, about the Ur having been present, the Ur itself, and then retracting back into the luminary, you're emphasizing the Ur. So the Ur is gone, it's there as a potential source. Here it's even more so. If you think about how it was before it began to be projected, notionally, right? You wouldn't even know that it's there, because it never happened. You will, after the fact, if you analyze it, you'll say, okay, projected himself, it must have been there before. But if you look at it from the point of view, from above to below, before it was projected, its non-presence is far greater. It's a greater form of bittul, so to speak. It's a greater form of indiscernment, non-discernment, whatever the word is, right? So it's an emphasis, it's a nuanced emphasis, but it's a strong emphasis. So in other words, what's the point that I was driving at? In what manner the retraction takes place, and in what manner that retraction is siluk, is removal, genuine removal, not just helim, not just concealment. In other words, relative to what goes on where it would project when it does, it's completely non-existent, because even in its source, the way it is present within its source, it's not discernible. From that point of view, the divine infinite light is not noticeable and is not felt, even potentially. If you look at it from the point of view that it already projected itself and it was retracted, so you say, okay, in what way is it present? It's present as a potential. I know that he has the ability to do so because he did it, and now he removed it. But if you look at it from the point of view before he projected and removed, he never projected. You still have to say that he is able to project. But in what way is that projection present within him? It's meaningless, because...
Is it meaningless because it hadn't happened at that point? And is it because, in retrospect, before the actual Simpson happened, is the Rebbe saying that there was a new reality was created which hadn't happened previously, and is he saying that's the amazing thing? I'm trying to understand what you're saying.
What he's saying is like this. Let's go back to the Arizal. Arizal says, in the beginning, what's the Lashon? When it came up in Hashem's desire to create the world, or in the beginning, in the beginning, Hashem's infinite light filled the entire hollow. Now, when you talk about Hashem's infinite light, it's Eir. So just, again, it's difficult to talk about these concepts because we're categorizing
Think
them.
of it as light.
So you have Hashem himself, Atzmus, Hashem's very essence. That's it. Then Hashem decided he wants to project himself. So he projected himself. That projection is called Oir Ein Sof Shelifnei Hatzimtzum. Hashem's infinite light before the contraction. This is all for the purpose of creation, right? There's nuances in Oir Ein Sof. There's this level, that level, this dimension, generally 3, and so on. Not going to go into that right now. For the purpose of creation, what did Hashem do? And there was no, and the Rizal goes on to say, there was no room, or there was no possibility for worlds to exist. Why? Because the entire hollow, the entire sphere, the entire whatever it was so filled with Hashem's infinite light that that's all that was present. So what did Hashem do? So he moved his infinite light el atzad. Imagine this spherical Oir Ein Sof. Infinite spherical Oir Ein Sof. Hashem goes into the middle like a donut, and he pushes away the Ein Sof to the side. V'nishar cholol l'makom poni, and what remained was a hollow and an empty space. These are all metaphors. These are just, that's the problem with learning Kabbalah dryly, because you have this imagery which can take it down to be. That's why I have to learn Chassidus, because Chassidus explains it in the terms, in the proper terms. Right?
It would be imaginary darkness.
Correct, but I don't want to get into it even more. But also, the Cholol L'makom Poni is also godly energy. In other words, he pushed away the unlimited aspect of the Ein Sof, and he left the limited aspect. That's godliness. That's very, very powerful, as we'll see in a moment. That Hashem's limited power creates. It could give life, at least certainly temporarily, and so on, as long as it's still connected to its source. Anyway, but let's not get off on the side. So he left this hollow and a void. Then he took a kav, took a line of infinite light from what he pushed to the sides, and he drew it down into this hollow, into this void. That kav contains within it, that line of Ein Sof contains within it the entire Seder Ishtarshalus chain order of creation from that moment, from that point. So the first revelation after the Tzimtzum of Ein Sof is called Odom Kadmon, primordial man. That's the top of the Ein Sof, and it goes all the way to the end of our physical world. And that's Hashem. That's the system Hashem chose for creation. Could have chose anything else, but that's the system he chose. What was the purpose of this exercise? Why couldn't he leave a kav? Okay, I understand you need a tzimtzum that it could be worlds, but why remove the entire infinite light and then bring back a line? Leave the line, push everything else away, and leave just the line. Because Hashem wanted to create. Because the infinite light knows nothing else other than Hashem. So it could create. Hashem decided that he'll create through that. Fine. But what type of creation would it be? You would look at Gashmias and you would see godliness. It would be in physical form, but the physicality would be completely meaningless in the sense that it would not have that feeling that it is separate, that it has its own identity. That, so to speak, God forbid, there is a possibility for something to exist outside of God.
So you're saying he wanted to leave the illusion of the fact that...
It's not an illusion. That's another discussion. It's not an illusion. From our perspective, it's real.
From our...
It's real.
Well, but maybe Chasidim's perspective.
No.
The normal guy on the street.
You can't say that it's an illusion. You can't say it's an illusion if you say creation is an illusion. The fact that creation feels that it has its own identity is an illusion. There's no reward. There's no punishment. There's no good. There's no bad.
But I'm saying for the normal guy on the street who's walking down the street, for him, the whole thing is an illusion because he feels total independence from everything.
But that's not an illusion.
Because he hasn't learned.
That's godly. That's what Hashem created. Hashem created that. Hashem, you want to call it that? Hashem created the illusion, if you want to call it illusion. But it's not an illusion. It's not that Hashem created one thing and something else appeared.
But I'm saying it's not an illusion to us because we understand it.
We understand it. Yeah. If you look at how I behave, it's still an illusion in the terms you describe. But come on, Stephen. Huh? Freg. Anyway, let's not go there now. That's for the Fabringen. Anyway, so the point is, that's why Hashem, so if you removed it all, and now the divine infinite light comes back in and says, 1 second, there's a new reality here. I'm coming into an environment where the Hashem's infinite light is not there. So the Kav begins to realize that it has to reckon with something that might be outside, so to speak, of the usual godly environment that it's used to. Right? Now, go back to how the point that I'm just making here is this, and with this we're going to finish. Go back to the idea of the Ein Sof Shalifnei HaTzimtzum, when the Ein Sof Hashem's infinite light filled the entire hollow before he pushed it aside. Right? So we're talking about the Ein Sof. We're not talking about the Tzimtzum, and not talking about the Kav. We're talking about Hashem's infinite light. What is that? That's also a downgrade because it's Hashem projecting himself, not Hashem's very essence. It's the way Hashem projects himself. When Hashem pushes away the Ein Sof to the side, what does it mean? He's retracting that part of the Ein Sof back into his very essence. So now what happens in what way is it present? It's present where? In Hashem's essence. In what way is it present? As a potential. It has potential to reproject himself. But if you look at it from before Hashem projected himself, in what way is the ability to be able to be projected, Hashem's ability to project himself, in what way is it present within his essence?
But before it was everywhere.
Before he projected himself. You don't even know that it exists, even as a potential. It's there, but you don't even know that it exists as a potential. So notionally, the way Hashem's infinite light exists within his very essence before he projects himself, and the way Hashem's infinite light is present within himself after he projects himself and retracts it, the former is far less discernible and present than the latter, notionally.
Say that again. Sorry, one more time.
Did you get that? Did anybody get
I want
that?
to get it.
It's
Just
all
say,
right from
please
the-
just say it again.
From
Please
28.
just
What
repeat
you
it
done back
again.
to
Please just
28.
repeat what you just
You'll
said.
not be able to repeat it.
The way Hashem's ability to project himself, in other words, the way the Ein Sof is present within Hashem's very essence before he projects the Ein Sof, before he ever projected the Ein
This is
Sof,
before he's
as opposed to the way Hashem's Ein Sof is present within his very essence after he projected himself and removed it back into him.
with you, yeah.
Which one notionally is less discernible and less present? The former. Why? Because he never projected it. If he never will project himself, you'll never know that it's possible.
No.
So notionally, the former is far less of a presence than the latter.
Because the previous situation was there was everything, it was everywhere.
Before the projection we're talking about. The bottom line, the point that Rebbe is saying is that the removal of the Ein Sof, it's the degree to which the Ein Sof is removed. The Rebbe says it's total, more basically. That's what the Rebbe is driving at. That the Siluk is total. We'll flesh it out in Mitzvah more tomorrow.